Thank you, everyone, for making the time and joining us today. We are happy and delighted to have everyone on board, especially on the attendees list, and our fascinating and fantastic set of speakers from different areas and different industries, all obsessed and quite excited about discussing the future of e-commerce, looking at e-commerce as a segment, which is obviously because of various reasons, the pandemic and so on, has caused a lot of difficulties, but at the same time brought a lot of opportunities. So we'll start with Marion Chomze. So Marion, if you can introduce yourself, the company where you're from and what you do over there.
Yes, hi. So yeah, as you said, my name's Marion. It's lovely to meet you all. And I'm very pleased to be here today. So I'm the marketing lead at Airwallex. Airwallex is a payments platform that is built for businesses that have international payment needs. So we really believe that no matter where your business is based, you should be able to sell overseas with ease. And therefore, we've built a payments infrastructure in order to help you make payments and receive payments internationally faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than you would get with traditional banking system. We've really seen exponential growth in the last year. We have now about 12 offices globally and about 700 staff. And that growth is really tied to the growth of e-commerce as a whole. And so I'm really excited to talk about the trends that we've seen off the back of the pandemic today. So thanks for having me. I think you may be muted, Gal. Sorry.
Sorry, yes, that happened. Hi, Stephen. So Stephen, if you can go next, please.
Hi, good afternoon all. My name's Stephen Wells. I'm the Chief Customer and Strategy Officer at Retail Merchant Services. Retail Merchant Services is a payments company that has been going now for around about 13 years. We have 50,000 customers across the UK and Ireland. Our key mantra across our business and across our overall ethos is around how can we make our customers' lives easier with regards to taking payments. Obviously, we've seen quite a few behavioural shifts over the last year, which I'll touch upon a bit further today. And obviously delighted to join today's session.
Thank you, Stephen. Next, Zain, if you can provide us an introduction as well, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zain. I'm the European Enterprise Director for Habu. We're a fulfillment company based in the UK and currently expanding throughout Europe. So we're a technology company at heart. So essentially, we're trying to change the way the fulfillment industry is running to ensure customers have the best service levels, regardless of their size. Typically, fulfillment companies focus on, your larger entities, whereas we're trying to open that best level of customer service for everybody. We have a unique hub model, which basically provides all customers with a micro warehouse within our larger warehouses and allows customers to deal directly with the person who's handling their stock instead of going through so many hoops. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about how the e-commerce industry has changed recently and how it's affected our business and the market as a whole.
Thanks a lot for that, Zain. And then finally, we've got Alexei.
Hello, everyone, and I'm listening to you, and I'm so glad we're in so great company today. So thank you for joining again. I am Alexei Potemkin. I am a managing director of Osome UK. Osome is the company that helps out entrepreneurs with the focus on e-commerce businesses to deal with all the boring, tedious tasks that everyone hates doing: accounting, bookkeeping, incorporation, you name it. Our model is like SaaS with human in the loop. So unlike other accounting software out there, we employ our accountants and bookkeepers, and hence we are able to provide the full scope of accounting services for e-commerce sellers. Also for the e-commerce sellers, we have our specialized product that allows you to save even more time on accounting and bookkeeping tasks by integrating with all the e-commerce platforms out there and assigning you a dedicated e-commerce accountant and bookkeeper. We are truly global company. Also, we have offices in 5 countries. Jesus, already 5. We have 6,000 clients globally, and obviously the last year showed us that the e-commerce segment is one of the segments where we need to focus on, because currently in the UK, for example, we have more than 70% of our clients are from the e-commerce. So I'm super glad to have this opportunity to talk to all our partners about trends and about where do we see all this going.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for the introductions, and it's great to have a great set of companies and speakers from various fields. So next we'll want to do a quick presentation in regards to e-commerce. Alexa will be delivering that. One other thing to add, guys, please feel free to ask a lot of questions, as many as you want. Feel free to add it in the question section and we'll endeavor to answer as many as possible. And then in the polls section, we'll be running some polls. It will be great to get your thoughts and your feedback as to some of the journeys that you're on. So first one you've got is, what year of trading are you in? So if you find that in the poll section. So on to now Alexei, who will be just delivering a quick presentation on the future of e-commerce.
Thank you. Just to guide a little bit our discussion, let's touch upon a few of the trends that we saw, like while talking to our clients, while talking to other experts in the e-commerce space. So maybe that will help us to shape the discussion going forward. Obviously, to start with, everyone saw this or a similar chart on the right side of the screen. The e-commerce, the share of the e-commerce sales is growing in all the non-grocery and grocery segments. So we saw during the lockdown that it's gets 5 years in 2 months or something like that, right? One of the things that probably we would like to see going forward is how will the trend look like in the next couple of months, where the offline retail shops are actually open. Because if you remember, in the lockdown everything was closed, so that's why when you are comparing the share of the e-commerce compared to almost zero sales in the closed shop, obviously we will see the growth that we saw. But it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how the offline retail will catch up during the summer. In terms of big trends that we see, that's the first one that I wanted to mention is obviously marketplaces. So we see that Amazon and eBay is already more than 40% of the e-commerce of the UK e-commerce sellers. It becomes more and more difficult for individual sellers, especially small business sellers, to compete if they are not on the marketplace. And the biggest not problem, but interesting trend here is not only many people buy on Amazon, but almost half of the internet shoppers starts their search to buy something already on Amazon, not on Google, right? So if you have your own Shopify or some other website somewhere else, half of the people will still go and search on Amazon, and if you are not there, they will probably not find you. So that has all the different implications, and where do you want to be, where do you want to sell? And the controversy here that also will be interesting probably to discuss with our partners is that Amazon, we see that Amazon obviously is issuing their own trademarks. So wherever product they see is doing good, we saw a lot of the cases that Amazon starts selling those products. So that's kind of the strategic decision that will be interesting to discuss for each of the small business sellers. Second part is about social media and social e-commerce. On the right here, you see that's the news from yesterday. So Instagram yesterday launched this additional drops section in their products in order to sell the product with limited capacity or something like that. I didn't go into the details, but the fact is that a lot of the e-commerce will move into social media. We see it in China, because in China this trend initially emerged. And there, basically, the things are going that far so that you can buy stuff from the influencers while you are looking at their, say, TikTok videos. Imagine that you are on TikTok, and with a click of a button, you can buy the product that influencers are selling. So that's also interesting thing to discuss, and that interesting thing to keep in mind. We also saw that 45% of the UK consumers would already buy the product on the social media, whereas only 24% of the UK businesses are selling product via social media, at least in the beginning of last year. So hopefully it changed during the pandemics. And the last but not the least, emerging markets. So everyone is thinking about US and the UK and Germany and France. But if you will look at the correlation between the rise of net income in certain country, you will see that the e-commerce share is also rising in these countries with the rise of the income. So that should lead you to consider also entering into the emerging markets. It's like a little bit less of competition there. The markets are huge, and the basically the strategy to enter there is also something that would be interesting to consider if you are to grow your e-commerce business going forward. That's it. Just like 3 of those points to kick off our discussion, and let's then turn to our partners and see what are they thinking about the future of the e-commerce, about what are the trends they see in their clientele, and what do they think the client should be doing going forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Alexei. Some very interesting findings. I think there's definitely a lot of optimism, a lot of exciting avenues to grow businesses, to grow into different markets, and seeing how individuals can still be quite optimistic about the future. So before we dive further into the future, I suppose it's hard to ignore the impact of COVID-19. So we wanted to kind of cover initially, to start with, the rise of e-commerce in recent years and the impact of COVID-19. So it'd be great for you guys to share some of the impact that you've had, and then what you think coronavirus has done to the e-commerce segment, and then where it's going to be going moving forward. So if we can start with Stephen, I know in terms of RMS, there was a tricky time, a lot of shops closing and then a lot of shops adapting. So if you can kick that off for us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, certainly from a COVID perspective, it's really accelerated people's thinking across our customer base around e-com. So predominantly our business is 95% face-to-face payments, and obviously with the lockdowns across the UK market, we saw all of our transaction volume drop, and also obviously a lot of problems across our customer base around how they're going to pay for their rent, how they're going to pay for their monthly bills. What we did see probably within April to May is a lot of retailers starting to reopen around click and collect, and a lot of retailers using technology which they would never have done previously. And that also includes pubs and restaurants as well, around click and collect technology. And also when the pubs and restaurants reopened in July, we've seen a big surge in the number of pay at table apps that are out in the marketplace. And what has actually been really interesting, and certainly what we've seen, is that traditionally people think about e-com as just buying clothes, buying a product, etc. on the internet and then getting it delivered. What we are actually seeing is a really big growth in e-com starting to replace face-to-face payments due to COVID restrictions. So one area that we're seeing quite a significant growth in is the pay at table apps, where you can go into a bar and restaurant. Obviously, to comply with social distancing, you can't go up to the counter now and order a drink or order your food. You need to do that at the table. And what we've seen for a lot of our customer base, the cost to actually support that model around extra staff to take orders and basically support a large table ordering system is really prohibitive to their overall business model. And certainly by rolling out these particular pay at table apps, click and collect, etc., we've really seen consumer thinking and also customer thinking and business thinking move more around into e-com, which has been really interesting.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that. So have you had an opportunity where you also had to create new products to cater to new environments we're in?
Yeah, Definitely so. I think the first thing that we saw from a payments perspective is customers start to enable their card terminals to take payments over the phone. And then secondly, we saw a big rise around the number of customers who are requiring an e-com product. And some of the things that we've done was we revised our pricing concept for our e-com offering to make it easier for customers to set up their website. Historically, similar to other payment partners that operate within the ISO space in the UK, we did used to have lengthy contracts in place that customers needed to sign. So we basically done away with all of them and moved to a pay-as-you-go model, which really enabled customers to come online pretty quickly. We also looked at our overall boarding model as well, about how can we actually make it easy for customers to go online, and also as well, how do we actually support them as well, because it's all very well around customers setting up websites, but if you don't know how to drive traffic to that website, it's no point in doing it. So there's a whole host of value-added services that we brought into play in order to really help our customers get back on their feet.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's been a very challenging moment where people have had to adapt quite fast, but I think a testament to companies, businesses, and leaders to carry on adapting their product offerings to ensure the customer is always looked after and we're catering for different and new needs. Marion, if you can go next as to the impact of COVID-19 on Airwallex and where you've seen consumers react and create new environments, how they're trading and looking after the businesses.
Absolutely. So at Airwallex, we were already an online e-commerce supporter. So from that perspective, well, when we saw more businesses moving from offline to online, it actually was playing into an area that we already had a lot of strengths, and it was really great for us to be able to help those businesses with that transitionary period. And just like Stephen was talking about, it was a lot of education as to how you could move into an online payment processing space, how you could set up your website to support online payments, what the different technical pieces were that would allow you to do that in the back end and make it a seamless checkout experience. And so I think that there was a very big learning curve for a lot of e-com businesses in the first 6 months of the pandemic that we were really able to help with. And I think that really fueled quite an exponential growth for Airwallex. On the flip side, a lot of our marketing activities were obviously curtailed. All of the face-to-face events and so on that we would have done were thrown out the window along with everybody else's. And so that gave us the opportunity to sort of settle down and look at our product suite and figure out where the gaps were and how we could build that out to really provide an end-to-end solution, which is what our offering is. And so more recently, we've launched our online payments product, which basically means that you can integrate with shopping platforms, for example, Ecommerce, and that will allow you a really, really seamless way of collecting payments from your customers. There's another feature that we've recently launched, which is Pay by Link. So for some customers who don't have an e-commerce website, but want to invoice customers through, say, a link in an email, that's a really great way of doing it seamlessly. And so we've just been thinking sort of creatively and around the box of how we can create products that help customers transition from the offline world to the online world.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Marion. Yeah, again, I think great ingenuity and adaptiveness on Airwallex's part to try and always keep the customer at the forefront of their product and marketing and sales strategy, which is important. Zain, if you can go next, please.
Sure. I mean, we were one of the very lucky few in the sectors that benefited from the pandemic, really. There was a huge influx of e-commerce brands, as everyone's mentioned, or brands having to pivot their strategies to incorporate an element of e-commerce. I think Marion used a really key word there, education. It brought to the forefront for us the need to modify sort of our onboarding process and really helping people, because not everybody was ready for to have to incorporate e-commerce into it. You need to understand that COVID didn't really cause this. COVID merely accelerated this boom, in my opinion. People who were already prepared and had their strategies in place were definitely fared much better. I mean, even pre-COVID, if we can cast our minds back that far, we were all yearning for really quick and easy solutions. I mean, I was an Amazon Prime customer for over a year before I even realized that there was a TV box sets and stuff available. I literally signed up just so I could get same day or next day delivery. So I think the people that were prepared to head in that way were definitely much better off. And I think that's the key going forward, really, is having an e-commerce strategy in place and understanding that not one answer is the same for everyone. There's not an off-the-shelf solution. Everyone needs to sort of incorporate something a little bit different, which takes care of their needs and, more importantly, their target customer needs.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zane, for sharing that. As they say, preparing is half the victory. So yeah, preparation is key in all times, especially in unpredictable times. Alexa, if you can go next, please.
Yeah, sure. So we obviously saw quite a few of the clients going out of the business, unfortunately. But at the same point in time, I remember like in the May last year, so we started seeing the influx of the e-commerce clients. And that basically was, while a lot of the accountants were busy with the furlough schemes and the government loans, etc. E-commerce was actually growing, and those businesses sometimes couldn't find an accountant who has time to basically help them out while they were growing faster than ever. So we, with our blend of like software solution and people on board, we were able to service those customers. And at that point in time, we decided that we should focus like dedicated resources on the e-commerce product, and hence, the pandemic, the whole last year, kind of forced us into the e-commerce space. But we are glad we are there, right? So we found that the pain points we are solving to those clients are actually like we are better positioned than anyone else on the market to do it, and hence we. I think we evolved into one of the best e-commerce accounting solution on the market.
Sounds exciting. Yeah, I think a credit to everyone to constantly being focused on evolving and educating ourselves and the consumers on how we can keep improving and staying positive and impactful to grow the businesses, and at the end of the day, delivering excellent services to customers and the communities that we're in. Brilliant. Okay, so let's move to now the trying to attempt to predict the future, which is never really an easy thing. But I suppose by collating data, experiences, and a good team, ideas, and so on, we are able to find ways to have a crack at predicting the future. So in the context of predicting the future of e-commerce, Alexei touched on some interesting parts at the start of the talk. So we'll go next to Zane. As for Habu, what do you think the e-commerce landscape looks like, and as to how you think your customers are going to be engaging further so in their activities, and where do you think the future of e-commerce is going?
Sure. I mean, I think success in the future belongs to making your target customers' life easier, sort of reducing that friction in the buying process. So if you're having a personalized e-commerce strategy, I mean, in a time where people are generally attention seeking, like chasing, OnlyFans producing, these sort of people, that these are your target customers. So there's platforms out there that can really personalize the entire shopping experience. They can reorder products on a website, which depending on who's actually viewing, they can using AI. And it's not just about having a website or a Shopify, because unless you're one of the very lucky people who only have one product and no competitors, there's always going to be someone out there who's going to have something similar. So it's about standing out from the rest. So a personalized strategy is definitely the way forward, in my opinion. I just think in a time where sort of Instagram and stuff is so popular, there's so many people out there that are only selling on somewhere like Instagram, which I don't necessarily think is the right answer either. And you've got brands such as like Primark who are defiant in not necessarily wanting to go online, because even though they predicted $1 billion loss, they didn't want to focus selling online, whereas other people are pivoting. I think there's got to be somewhere a meet in the middle kind of strategy, and you definitely have to personalize your experience towards your target customer. That's my opinion.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, Zain. Stephen, if you can kind of add your 2 bits into what the future of e-commerce in terms of your perspective is headed towards.
Yeah, sure. I think it really just dovetails on from what Zain mentioned around the ease of customer use. Is around making that checkout process as slick as possible. I think one of the things that we're seeing is a big surge within wallet pay transactions via Google Pay, Apple Pay, etc. And it's probably fair to say 70 to 75% of all e-com transactions are now done on a mobile device. So by being able to make that checkout process as slick as possible for the customer, so they don't have to re-enter all of their card details, form fill as well, around whereby it's a one-click option to put their address details in, etc. I think it's going to be really critical. I think the other part as well is around tokenization. So this is whereby obviously your card details are encrypted, and historically tokenization has been down at a retailer level. So if you save your particular card details, say with Amazon, obviously you would need to go and re-sign them again or resave them details with a different retailer. I think what we are starting to see from the payment schemes as well is around cross tokenization, where them card details are shared but in a very secure environment, which also makes the checkout process really straightforward. And I think the key theme is really around how can you actually reduce shopping cart abandonment rates as well. So, and I think we're all guilty of doing it. We've clicked on a product that we like, and then you go through the checkout process, and then you have to enter your billing details, you have to enter your address details, you have to enter your delivery details, etc. And sometimes you get through that, and then you get buyer's remorse, or rather, actually, I'm going to have a think about this, and you never go back to that site. So I think the real winners, and some of the players out there like Amazon with their one-click checkout option, are going to be around how you make that checkout process as smooth and slick as possible for the end customer.
Yeah, that's very interesting for sure. I think especially in regards to the attention span, I suppose, as to consumers constantly distracted, lots of ads, checking out is an important feature to simplify and constantly improve for sure. Alexei, if you can kind of share your perspectives in this topic too, please, next.
So in addition, or probably like zooming into what I said in the beginning, I think that the merchants should probably think more and more about distribution, right? So with the questions that we raised with the like Amazon growing and with the social media e-commerce growing, you just need to think where the customers of your product will be buying the product like yours in a year from now, right? And you want to follow your customers, and you want to be at that marketplaces or at that platforms where they are basically. And I think that this consideration should be one of the like on top of the mind of the merchants, because like a lot of the changes will be accelerating, and like if you will be late to this game, then basically you will see your business not growing.
Yeah, for sure. I think distribution, but also at the same time, it is pretty competitive. So it's having various things that the guys have mentioned to consider always to keep looking to grow and manage the business. Marion, if you can go next, please. One other thing before you go into that. So thanks a lot, guys, for posting the questions. Keep them coming. We'll cover all of them, as many as we can, towards the end of the presentation and the panel discussion. Marion, if you can go next. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love some great ideas coming through. And I think for me, when we look back at history as well, there have been some really big opportunities off the back of global disruptions. And so when we think about the 2008 global crisis, obviously that kickstarted the gig economy with Airbnb and Uber. And more relevantly, with SARS, that really propelled Alibaba, the biggest e-com platform in the East, into its current status. And so not entirely sure what the next steps will be for us post-pandemic, but I think we can expect something really exciting for e-commerce. In terms of something more tangible, obviously, one of the biggest priorities for consumers and businesses alike has been conserving cash flow in the last year. And I think that means that a lot of people are more likely to consider alternatives to traditional banking systems and looking at ways that they can be more cost efficient in how they set up their businesses, on how they set up the supporting pieces that keep their businesses running. And so, for example, coming from a fintech's perspective, we are seeing a lot of our newer customers coming to us from traditional banks because they recognize that there are a lot of efficiencies that can be made and a lot better customer support that can come from working with a smaller business. In terms of coming from a marketer's perspective, I think it's just something that Alexi mentioned earlier, but live streaming is becoming really, really popular for e-commerce. For example, there's a platform called Bigo Live, which I think comes out of Singapore, and that is becoming a priority for them as a social network to really focus on how they can scale their e-commerce products. So they literally have their influencers doing sales of products non-stop on their live stream channels. And I do think that we're going to see that increasingly in Western markets.
Yeah, very interesting. I look at live stream selling, I suppose, online like a new form of QEC, where we've had these channels in the past where you're constantly selling something all the time, but that's taken a new spin in the new world is through social media. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, guys, for sharing your perspectives. Very interesting points and lots of different things. Naturally, there's not just one thing. It's various things that can be impactful to consider when growing your business, especially in the e-commerce space, which is exciting and challenging at the same time. Brilliant. So next, we'll move to the element of ESG, environmental, social, and governance impact on the e-commerce segment or the e-commerce businesses. What's their responsibilities, and in general responsibilities we think for modern businesses in regards to ESG. Marion, Stephen, if you can go next on that. I guess Brexit is one which has impacted on the governmental front many things, how we trade and look at things. So Stephen, if you could go next, please. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, I think, absolutely. I think it's becoming more to the forefront of consumers' minds when they're shopping online. I think, it touches across a couple of different areas. I think, obviously, Brexit is a very key one. I think certainly at the back of COVID across the UK market, and I would envisage that this is probably the same for the rest of the world, there will be more of a mindfulness to shop locally or shop within the UK. And I think, being able to shop with your country's retailers or country's outlets is going to be more of the forefront of consumers' minds. I think also as well around product sourcing as well. So where are the raw products actually being derived from? What does the supply chain look like? And also as well, what does the packaging look like from an environmental perspective? And even I know, Amazon, dare I say, are still guilty of doing it, where you order a pen and there's a box comes turned up that looks like a washing machine's being delivered. But I think consumers are getting a hell of a lot more mindful of that around the overall environmental impact around packaging and waste that comes from the e-com channel. And certainly there's certain retailers out there whereby the actual product packaging is fully biodegradable, and it's very easy to recycle, and moving away from some of the core plastics and some of the types of plastics which are a lot harder to recycle and certainly put into your local household recycling bin. I think the last bit as well is more from an overall governance perspective as well, around how some of these particular e-com retailers are run and what kind of image do you portray out into the overall market. So where are you actually paying your tax? What are you doing around corporate social responsibility? And also how you are actually treating your employees as well. Are you actually paying a fair wage? Is your supply chain ethical? Have you actually gone through and audited your supply chain? And I think all of these elements are going to be really critical going forward in order to grow a successful online business.
Great, and some great points there. Yeah, I think naturally we've seen many people pointing at governments or big business to act first, but I think nowadays the responsibility lies with all of us, I suppose, no matter the size, because that's good for the government, it's good for society. So that's something I suppose is more important than ever before, to take their responsibility as individuals and business owners, employees, and so on.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely so.
Zain, if you could share your perspective there too next, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think partnerships and collaborations are really, really key for e-commerce businesses to work on especially the environmental side of things, because you've got to look at things from, it's not just the manufacturing, the entire logistics process and everything else, to be able to pool resources and to be able to get your hands on the technology and to streamline everything that the bigger companies have access to, for everyone else is definitely going to be beneficial. I mean, it's not just about planting trees anymore. You have to be a little bit more open-minded. I mean, we plant trees as well, by the way, so I'm not against planting trees. It's just that there needs to be a slightly deeper thought process applied. I mean, Amazon's fleet has gone pretty much all electrical now, or they're heading that way. DPD are talking about being carbon neutral, which is fantastic. Last mile delivery has such a huge impact, especially on e-com delivery. So I mean, while awareness is at an all-time high, as Stephen mentioned, in terms of the negative impacts, I feel like it's not necessarily easy for all the consumers to actually do something about it. I mean, if you think back to way back when, I'm showing my age a little bit, when you used to get a glass of Iron Brew for that, and you give the glass bottle back and you get 20 pence back from the shop, and it reduced littering, it increased recycling, that sort of thing, but it made the consumer happy because they got 20 pence off their next bottle, but they were actually doing something about it. But it was just something really easy for them to do something about it. It wasn't difficult. Didn't go out of their way. I think given how people are time poor, it's still important to be able to offer people sort of same day, next day delivery. I get that, but it would be really cool if someone had like an alternative service as well, saying if you need it same day, no problem, but if you're willing to wait, for example, up to within 7 days, so when we've got like a group delivery for your particular area, and then your zip code or whatever, and you'll get extra loyalty points, for example, and you can use that, whether it's in sort of an automated wallet, an online wallet, something like that, you can use them loyalty points build up to get something. I feel like that would be almost that whole gamification element of it. People would be more willing to try it. I mean, it's something that's probably a little bit different, and we're a little bit away from it. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but I feel like that would be a really good thing to introduce to the whole online experience. In terms of governance and stuff, Brexit has been obviously quite difficult for everyone. We have actually opened up a new facility in the Netherlands last week, and we're expanding throughout Europe now as well, so to try and make that process easier, but it's incredibly difficult to, I think the one thing e-commerce brands need to understand is where they're going to be paying their taxes. I think, Stephen, you mentioned that it's such a key thing, because a lot of our customers are importing things from different countries but then selling them, they hold it in a hub in the UK but selling it into different countries. So is it really important for them to bring everything over into UK? So I think having that whole plan in place is super important.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for sharing your insight there, Zain. And I love the idea of incentivizing people to recycle more and giving away points or a 20p discount. I'm surprised no one's done that yet. So guys, free idea there for you if you guys want to implement it. I don't know if Habu has copyrighted it yet.
No, not yet. I'll get back to you on that.
Interesting point on the tax side of things, the implication, especially post-Brexit. So as an accounting firm, Alexei, what are your thoughts in that remit as to British businesses initially being able to trade more or less seamlessly across Europe? Now post-Brexit, all the new challenges that are brought forward, what do you think in that context, how it's affected the businesses, and what are the opportunities still for them in that remit in regards to tax and managing the business across Europe?
Well, if we are talking about corporate tax, corporation tax, then like the businesses that we are servicing are not that big to start hiding their profits in the tax-free jurisdictions. And well, we are filing tax returns for them, so we know that all of them are basically paying the taxes in the UK. In terms of taxes, it became particularly difficult to sell in the EU. So currently, with Brexit and all the new changes coming in the EU market in terms of the VAT, and like one-stop shop VAT and a few others, it just creates a lot of confusion, right? So we see that a lot of the customers don't know what to do, if you need to register, if you don't need to register. A lot of the customers don't know like what exactly they need to, like what are the rules basically, right? And yeah, funny things, not even all the tax consultants know like what exactly is the route forward in terms of the EU taxes. So here we are obviously having the hand on the pulse of the changes in the industry. So we are updating all our databases and all our knowledge in terms of like what are the rules going to be from the 1st of July in EU. And yeah, hopefully we will be prepared for the 1st of July for all of the changes coming into the EU, so that we help the customers that we serve to guide them into how do they come back into European Union and start or continue selling there and knowing they're in the green.
Great, thanks for sharing that. I guess things, whenever they get difficult, it's never impossible, just new ways to find solutions, I suppose. That will be the key still. Marion, if you had any final remarks in regards to ESG.
Yeah, I think that the guys have had it really well covered. The only thing I'd add is around data security. As businesses move online, you're handing a lot more consumer data. Just making sure you have the correct processes in place to safeguard that, and be really, really vigilant with GDPR and so on, that you are following those regulations, and yeah, having customer data security first.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. I think data security, especially in an age where we're giving away data freely every 5 minutes, it seems like somebody wants my email address. So it's important to really be providing safe environments for people to protect their privacy, for sure. Next, we'll move on to why emerging markets are so important. So Alexei, you touched on it briefly in the presentation. If you can just expand on a few things you mentioned in the presentation earlier to start with, would be great.
Yeah, sure. So what we see is once the merchant sees the good growth, a good results in the UK, they start thinking about, okay, where do I go next? How do I expand internationally? And I'm pretty sure Airwallex can let us know a lot of the stories how the businesses do it. So we see it on our end as well. And in most of the cases, the business owners think about entering the either EU or the US. So the US, because it's like the biggest market and the most interesting for everyone. The EU, it looks close enough where over the last few months it became not that close, but still kind of more familiar and still a big market to sell it. One thing that we see happening is the increase of the e-commerce share in emerging countries. So whenever the economy is growing, and whenever we see that the economy is growing, we see that the share of the e-commerce sellers is actually rising to the average level of the developed countries. So in this sense, I don't say that everyone should be selling in Russia or Indonesia or somewhere else, right? But at least maybe merchant should look into those countries, see if there is a good fit for the product they are selling. And if yes, then I would definitely go a little bit deeper in terms of understanding how the market is structured there, what are the payment providers that are working in there, what is the logistics that can be set up depending on where do you ship from, how do you ship to, again, Indonesia or Malaysia or Russia for that sake. Yeah, so there are quite a few things to think about and to set up, because obviously if you are entering Germany or France, there are hundreds of 3PL providers, there are hundreds of payment gateways that are accessible in there, and it seems easy, but then on the other hand, the easier it is, the more competition you will see there. And in the emerging market, they probably, for some of them and for some product groups, you will still see the possibility to be in the, well, not in the blue ocean, but at least with lower competition than you see in the developed markets.
Yeah, some great points there, because naturally, it's can be a little bit more challenging, but through challenges comes great opportunity. So definitely it's worth looking at different territories, not some of that not always easily kind of marketed or in other pieces of information people are sharing. Brilliant. Zain, as a European Enterprise Director, so what is your perspective as to the emerging markets and where there's opportunity for e-commerce sellers?
Yeah, I think Alexa hit the nail on the head, but in terms of the one thing I would definitely stress is that to really understand each market, so do your research before you expand into each market, because, for example, what Amazon means to us here is same day, next day delivery, doesn't necessarily mean the same in other countries. So I lived in Indonesia for a couple of years, and Amazon over there basically means international shipping charges and probably wait up to 10 days to get a package, so their perspective of what that is completely different to what I had when I moved there. So for me, it's really important to understand that particular the market that you're going to be going into. Similarly, I was in Ukraine last week. I downloaded Uber Eats before I got there, thinking I'd be okay, but Uber Eats, they're completely bombed because they were not able to get the contracts with your McDonald's and these sort of brands, and they had a local brand called Glovo there which does exactly the same thing, and they were able to secure all the contracts with all the biggest restaurants. So therefore, although Uber Eats is there, it had absolutely no impact on the market as it would have done here. So I think it's really important to understand the markets that you're going into and really see which platforms your customers are going to be using, and don't just think what works in this country necessarily is going to work in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every market is different, cultures are different, societies are different, but naturally commerce can be aligned, but it's important to definitely, as you guys said, keep a close eye on what makes that country work versus the other in regards to commerce. Marion, if you can share your thoughts next, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it'd be good to share a customer story. This is actually much more on the supplier side. So one of our clients is called Bubble Tea Club. And at the beginning of the pandemic, these take-home kits became so popular because obviously we were all looking for stuff to entertain ourselves outside of work, still being at home. And so they really saw exponential growth and were not set up to support the volume of demand that was coming through. And one of their suppliers, I think, was in Taiwan, which is where the home of bubble tea actually comes from, and it was really premium goods, and so they really used Airwallex as a platform to manage those FX payments to their supplier in the local market, and really make a lot of cost savings there. And I think in general, when you think about emerging markets, it doesn't necessarily need to just be expanding from a sales perspective, but it could also be how can you source your goods and materials in a cost-effective way or in an ethical way from different markets that might have premium products that you haven't actually explored before. So that's definitely something that I would highlight. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, a great point there. It's not just, I suppose, about growing somewhere. It's also resources that can be found to help businesses on a product front, quality front, cost front, and so on. Stephen, if you can add your closing remarks on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think everyone's probably touched across the key points, but I think the only additional point that I would just like to stress is really understanding the competition in that marketplace and where your own products and service can win. Because even if you do all of the work around, understanding the supply chain, how you're actually going to ship products out, how you're going to handle the returns, etc., how are you actually going to differentiate yourself from some of the local offerings? And I think, Zain made a very good example around Uber Eats and as to where that hasn't actually taken off. And it probably, in hindsight, for them guys, they probably just didn't do the research up front around how you can actually take a model which works very successfully in other countries and try to passport that in. And it's really important to understand the nuances of customer behaviour and also the product and marketplace in order to set yourself up for success for any territory you go into. And obviously there's a lot of players that try and fail, and usually that is the reason of that they haven't been successful, is because they haven't done the research up front.
Yeah, definitely some great points again there, because naturally it's quite appealing always to open up new territories, open new customer bases, but the initial research, the planning is the most fundamental important thing for sure. Brilliant. Moving on to the next topic is a guide to online marketplaces, pros, cons, and key considerations. So the likes of Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and so on. What would you guys think? So let's start with Zain in regards to online marketplaces, pros, cons, and key considerations.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing for me to look is integration capability. So from a company, we kind of offer free integrations to all platforms. We're integrated with loads already, all the major ones that you mentioned, plus more. But there's so many more that are popping up. I mean, I get introduced to, so whenever I'm having a sales call, they're all like, are you integrated with so and so? And I'm like, I've never even heard of that, but we can definitely work that patch in. It's not a problem. So the biggest thing for me to consider, I would say, is whether or not they've got the open API, whether they're able to integrate into whichever systems that is that you guys are using. In terms of pros, you definitely get a lot more exposure the more platforms you're on. You can reduce your marketing costs because you're across you're open to very different markets, different people. And it creates a level of trust, in my opinion, because if you're only available on maybe one platform, it's like, oh, is this company really that reliable? Especially if you're an emerging company. Whereas if you're out there on the major platforms, I feel like the customer will trust your brand a little bit more. So I think it's there's plenty of pros. In terms of cons, obviously there's the commission element on there, which depending on what your margins are that you've got to play with, and the biggest con for me would be like Amazon, for example. They have very, very high levels of service delivery that you have to hit. And as soon as, for example, if you don't necessarily hit them, it might be not your fault. If you're using a fulfillment partner, or if you're using, it could be an external factor that's completely not down to yourself, but you're not hitting that same levels of service delivery. All of a sudden, Amazon have a very negative impact on your business, and that can cause you problems in the long run. So I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely different areas, different types of audiences that are in different environments, and the commission naturally is key as well. Stephen, if you can go next, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Zain's covered most of the points there. I think, certainly for around a pro is it does give you an immediate distribution out to a large customer base. What we tend to find at RMS is that customers fully understand the concepts around selling online, but they struggle around how they actually market their website and how do they actually drive traffic. So certainly going into a marketplace, you've immediately got that pop that your product is front and center. Certainly from a cons perspective, commission, and also you can get squeezed out very quickly on the marketplace. It's certainly one of the things that we find from speaking to customers, whereby to a certain extent, it can be a bit of a race to the bottom. That you've got your product there, it's doing really well one day, and then you find out that someone's launched a similar product or the same product, but it's 50p cheaper or £1 cheaper, etc. And that really erodes in. So certainly we see that the marketplaces are a very good vehicle in order for SMEs to sell their products. There's also as well, obviously, traditional Amazon, which most of the customers that we speak to don't really like Amazon, just for the simple fact the amount of commission that they give away. But we are actually seeing that there's quite a lot of a rise of more local marketplaces around things like not on the high street or down the high street, which are really set up to support SMEs selling their products, but doing it without taking a large commission share. And it's more around ethical supply chain, ethical selling, etc. So really it's around weighing up the pros and cons. And as Zain said as well, it's really important to get your product out there, but it's also important as well to have a plan B, shall we say, and not put all of your eggs in one basket around pushing the product all onto one marketplace.
Yeah, and definitely, I think as you guys mentioned, key to have diversification in terms of platforms, so access to different markets, and if one stops working, then at least there's another few marketplaces that can still yield some sales. Alexei, if you can share your perspective there in regards to marketplaces, pros and cons, and what Osome standpoint is on that.
I don't think I will add any additional valuable points in addition to what we've touched upon in the beginning. So just to remind you, half of the internet searches for shopping start now with Amazon. So you can do whatever you want in terms of like marketing your own website, but like half of the people will go to Amazon to search for something. So that's one thing to consider. One thing in addition to that, to add to what Steven said, we actually see a rise of very, very localized marketplaces. So we have one of our clients who is building the marketplace for local suppliers only. So they partner with the distillers in Scotland, with the farms in Cotswolds, and they are basically putting their products on their own marketplace, thus creating the competition to Amazon and the like. So that is one thing to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Some good points there. And then finally, Marion, if you have any other closing remarks.
I think it's been really well covered. Obviously, if you choose to go against having a marketplace, I think obviously we've covered the importance of figuring out your distribution and branding, but also thinking about that conversion piece. So once the customer does actually find your site, is it a really, really seamless process to check out? How have you set that up? Is it compatible with the likes of the marketplaces? Because if that's clunky from a customer's perspective and it takes them a long time, there's no guest checkout feature, for example, it takes them a long time to complete their details, they're going to bounce. And so if you do choose to go it alone and keep the commission and do the distribution yourself, make sure you have the end-to-end piece figured out as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's looking at the full picture, I suppose, is key. As always. So moving on to the final topic, guys, we've got Q&A coming up, so we'll endeavor to answer as many of the questions you have posted. So the final topic is social selling and the emergence of influencer live streams. So Marion, again, if you could mention a few things on that topic would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously work in marketing, and I'm particularly passionate about this space. And I'm sure pretty much everyone here would have experienced actually buying something on a social media channel themselves. Perhaps it didn't go so well for you. Perhaps you had a bad experience and it put you off forever, or perhaps you had a really great experience. And I think that we will continue to see more and more of this moving forwards. We've already talked about live streaming today. That's a huge trend that will come very soon to here. And then additionally, influencer marketing, it's been around for so long, but one of our newer clients was actually talking to me the other day and explaining that it doesn't have to be about these big celebrity brands where you need a huge budget to invest in them promoting your product. There are actually some startup agencies around that are working with what we call small scale influencers. So they could be people with very, very small followings, but they are highly influential. And so they don't cost a lot to work with, and they'll promote your product on your behalf. And that's a really successful way of getting in front of a highly targeted audience at low cost. So think a bit creatively, be aware that influencer marketing has been around for a long time, but there are ways that it is evolving and that you can definitely tap into for your business.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that. So let's move into the Q&A. Firstly, thanks a lot, everyone, for some great insights into these various topics. The recording for this, guys, will be sent to yourselves as also. You can replay it and watch it again. And next, so let's move into some of the questions. So I think there's a question from Andy Fee for Marion in regards to Amazon and Airwallex. So I think Andy's asking, is Airwallex recognized by Amazon as a payment provider? I think is what he's referring to.
Yes, we are, absolutely. I think the term is PSP. And then we can also connect your Amazon platform. So if you're an Amazon seller, you can connect to our global accounts. If you have operations internationally, so for example, you have an Amazon US collections account, then you can create a USD Airwallex local currency account and collect the funds into there, and then choose when you want to convert those to GBP. So definitely reach out to us afterwards to get more information, and we can provide follow-up.
Sure, thanks for that, Marion. Next, we'll go to Daphne M. Is there a top e-com platform for handling multiple warehouses? Maybe it is Zane, maybe you could take that. I'm not sure actually, or not, but I'm assuming it might be.
I'm not sure, to be honest. So we have our own network of warehouses, but so I'm not 100% sure which is the best platform for multiple warehouses, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Well, I guess you'll say Habu now.
Well, yeah, if I'm biased, yep. You told me not to be biased, Cole.
No, for sure. I think there are lots of different fulfillment companies out there, and Habu is definitely one of the best ones out there for sure. Cool. So we've got another question from Sylvia. Hi all, I have a question. Since May, their sales have dropped 60% due to pandemic and holidays. They currently sell on eBay and Etsy, and only starting to now sell on Amazon. Is there any advice that can be given to promote their current business? Stephen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And certainly this is a challenge that we see across a lot of our customer base around how you can actually drive more traffic. I think there's a lot of things that you can do without costing a lot of money. The traditional way to advertise is spending on pay-per-click advertising with Google, which can be incredibly expensive and you can burn a lot of cash very quickly. I think there's certain things that you can do, certainly on social media, around likes of your products, etc., running some competitions, free giveaways, etc. There's certain things that you can do around search engine optimization within your local area, which are very straightforward to do, which will help put your website up the relevant rankings. I think Trustpilot reviews and Google reviews, etc., are also really important, and start to get your customer base to act as your ambassadors out and about, should we say. Certainly we see that a lot of our successful customers, where they've managed to crack that around being able to give away competitions, doing it very cost effectively on social media, likes and shares, etc., offering very good Google reviews as well, and encouraging customers to leave Google reviews. You can really generate a stack of organic business and organic traffic going to your website.
Great. Yeah, definitely. I think it's always trying new things and trying different elements and building that authenticity to reviews and other mediums. So we've got, where was it? Sorry, I think, let me just scroll through. Is any experiences on shipping across Europe? Zain, maybe you could share something around that, of UK sellers perhaps shipping across Europe, what that looks like, how can that be simplified?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there was a period when Brexit first was officially announced, and it was going on for ages. When it actually officially happened, there was a period where it became incredibly difficult because, for example, DPD were not taking anything into Europe. But I feel like it has eased up a little bit. So I'm happy to have a chat with Gemma after this webinar to see what particular experience she's had or what she's finding difficult, because our things that definitely have smoothed out now. We're pretty much back up to normal in terms of shipping into Europe and beyond.
Great. Yeah, brilliant. So another question we had, one was before the event, in regards to selling across Europe versus selling across US. What kind of, I guess, implications there may be when it comes to opening up either or? Which one would one recommend? Pros and cons of that. Alexei, do you want to take that as to EU, setting up across in EU or US?
Well, for us, as like I can give you a perspective from the accounting company, from the perspective of admin that you got to do. Definitely, EU becomes easier to sell in compared to the US, with the different rules in different states, etc., etc. While the US is obviously a bigger market. So, like for us, from the accounting standpoint of view, we will support you wherever you want to sell, right? So if it's the US, we will guide you through the process in there. If it's the EU, we will will help you out in there as well.
Sure, sounds good. And then Marion, how does Airwallex kind of help out? Was it selling across Europe, America?
Yeah, we actually see trade routes very commonly across both of them, and also into Asia, where we have very strong roots. And I think, you know, as a e-commerce business, the way I would think about which market to expand to is really about starting. I think this came up earlier, perhaps with Stephen, but really think about where your customer is, what what problem you're trying to solve with your products, and then whether or not you can match that to the market. So if you do your research, actually with Zane with Uber Eats, if you do your research and make sure that there is actually a need in that market that you're looking to expand to, that might help answer the question for you. But ultimately, if you're really looking to supercharge growth, there's a much bigger market available in the US. So it might be that your suppliers are coming from the EU and you're actually making your sales to customers in the US. So yes, weigh up that product market fit versus the actual audience potential.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that. Guys, if you have any other questions, please feel free to send. Just conscious of time. We are nearing an end, as the guys have delivered lots of great information. Hopefully you guys have all liked it. And then everyone who has attended will be receiving special offers from all of us, all the partners involved, including from Osome, free 1 month free for the accounting services, retail merchant services. There will be special rates perhaps that we can share with you. And then from Habu and Airwallex, we'll be sharing other partner related offers to hopefully beyond just the content. If you guys are in the market for different services, we'll be sharing special offers with everyone. And other than that, thank you to all the guests, the speakers, the attendees. Thanks a lot for everyone for making the time. Thank you, Marion, Zane, Stephen, and Alexei for your insightful tips, guidances, viewpoints. Hopefully to the audience, they've enjoyed it as much as I have. Hopefully, if not, you can also share it if you liked it so much with other people. We'll be sharing the video post-event. And wishing everyone a great end of the month, a great long weekend, and a good day ahead.